Welcome to the BOLO podcast, where we bring you insightful discussions on all things related to Black business, leadership and current affairs. Proudly brought to you in association with Camden Council, our aim is to shed light on matters concerning London, the UK and their impact across the diaspora. Join us as we delve into the inspiring stories of the people on the ground, creating dreams and seizing opportunities, paving the way for a brighter future. We also engage with decision makers who play a vital role in shaping policies, ensuring a conducive environment for the growth and success of Black business. Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected, stay informed, and together, let's make a difference. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Martin Wilson, co-founder of Black Owned London, and I'm just happy to be here.
And I'm Alex Omega Poe, co-founder of Black Owned London, and today I'll allow our guests to introduce themselves, Theo and Lorraine.
Afternoon. So my name's Theo-Lee Houston. I'm the founder of Slinger, and it's a tech staffing platform, and we're on a mission to make CVs redundant. So think of us as the Uber for hospitality, but with a new mission to remove CVs because they're inefficient in the whole entire hiring process. And yeah, really pleased to be here and serving London and the hospitality scene.
Amazing.
Hello, my name's Lorraine Copes. I'm the founder and CEO of a social enterprise called Be Inclusive Hospitality. And we have a mission to build a thriving community, which we're well on our way to doing, to accelerate race equity in the hospitality. And in essence, we are levelling the playing field for Black and brown founders and employees in the hospitality industry by conducting research, delivering programs, initiatives, awards, and partnering with a number of global brands to help them on their journey.
Amazing. I think one of the most essential factors is understanding your journeys, how you got to where you are right now. Mm-hmm. And so could you enlighten us in any form factor highlights along your journey and what the career has been like and how you ended up, how did you end up starting Slinger? And what's the journey
Very
towards
good
that?
question. How far do you want me to go? Like birth inception? Or
I think the womb is always a good start.
Good place to
Your
start.
own journey, your own personally, what led you to start the thing in the first place, and then how it's been since and how it's grown.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you starting my early adult life in leaving uni, aspiring banker, got into banking after handing out 100 CVs a day for a year. I came out in a deep recession.
Good work.
So I studied economics and came out, in 2007. This was everybody talking about the crisis. And I was like, this is amazing. Everyone was like a little mini economist.
Yeah.
This is relevant to my studies. Everyone's moaning about recession for 4 years while I'm at uni, having the best time of my life, going out, skiing holidays, all of that because I had a student loan. So it was great. What is a recession? Come out in 2011, push, there's a recession. All the financial jobs had dried up. All the graduate programs had gone. And the reality hit. And, I think I'd say I'm like a new Labour child, EMA and social housing, all these support. And that was it. I was in the real world now, none of that support. And trying to find a job. I remember my mum telling me, you need to find a job or you need to get out of here. 100 CVs out a day for a year. And then finally landed a banking job. Did it for 2 years. Basically nearly crushed my soul. And it was hard. It wasn't the place that it promised. Worked for a place that had been 99% bought out by the government. So it wasn't like everybody's the youngest person and it was like 45.
Oh, wow.
And I'm a fresh 20-year-old ready to go.
Right.
And I moved around, starting in Uxbridge, Wembley, then finally got into the city, Liverpool Street, thinking it would all change. And just enjoy it. And around all these city people, putting a persona on, suit bottle, credit card. Everyone thinks you're living a life. And I didn't like the projection of what I was giving out. And I wasn't even enjoying it. So every Thursday, these cool kids, street food kids used to come out. They're called Curb. And they were selling street food outside of Gherkin. So that's probably like the most happiest moment in my week for that between 12 and 2 p.m. Went out there, you know, having the most amazing lunch. This is where street food was like cool and edgy. So like, I'd say it's like quite sanitized and expected now.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the day like someone would be like, hey, we're underneath a car park, and someone tweet it and 100 people be queuing for the burger. It was cool and edgy. I remember seeing a red man sell out about 300 portions in the space of an hour and a half, £10 to go, do the maths.
Wow.
Right.
I was like, who's really making the money here?
Yeah.
So I started questioning and I wanted to get into it. And just a bit of backstory, my granddad used to be a market trader, my mum was a market trader. So I guess this was some like possibility, but my mum was like, I've sent you to uni, like you got a degree in economics, you're becoming a banker, not a street food trader. But yeah, quit, became one, did that for about 4 years, did every street market in London, every event, wanted to get in with Curb, they're a very exclusive club, should I say. Understandably, you want the best of the best.
Right.
And the best of the best look a certain way. And like middle class England playing street food, a working class man's sport. But eventually got in after many years, knocking through the doors. And then I kind of got onto the curation side because I was at Maltby Street, so I became the market manager there. Curb loved what I was doing. They had a head of markets position become available. So I took that. So I was now managing the old site I used to go and eat at, plus another 8 sites and built on top of it. It was an awesome experience at Curb. Spent 5 years there, and I was in like higher number 9 or 10. We went to over 300 people in that space. So I called that like my master's in business.
Yeah.
But working with these entrepreneurs, they all had staffing issues. It wasn't my job to find out at the time. So I set up a WhatsApp group. Throwing anyone who was asking me, Theo, I need a job. Theo, I need workers. And that community started off with 5 people, grew to 256 on WhatsApp. Girlfriend at the time, really annoyed, the phones going off all the time and people swapping shifts. So then moved on to Facebook. That went to over 3,000 users. And then this is about 6 months before COVID came. I was like, I think I could turn this into a business, an app, and you know, really improve the service because it wasn't perfect at the time. People weren't showing up, when people weren't get paid properly. There was no middle person controlling that and looking after it all. So thankfully, in a weird way, COVID hit and I had time. So I got the first version of the app built and released it in April 21. This is when the government were reducing the restrictions and they were like, hey, you can eat outdoors in the rain. And yeah, release it to the community, and ever since then it's like building a plane and what it's taken off.
Amazing. Thank you, Lorraine.
So for me, my background, so I'm from Birmingham, you can probably tell. Proud Brummie. Yay. Studied logistics at uni actually, which was just the most boring subject you will ever study. It was dull as dishwater. But I was at a point when I was 16 making decisions about my future, or 18. Yeah, I started uni at 18. Which was around, do I pursue what I really love, or do I pursue something that is going to provide me with a stable career? And I went with the stable career thing. And that led me to logistics, which was as dull as dishwater. However, it led me to then procurement. So logistics, supply chain, procurement, all interlinked. Carved out an industry in the hospitality sector over the past 2 decades. So more recently on exec boards for brands like the Gordon Ramsay Group, Corbin & King. I was part of the team that brought Shake Shack to the UK, which was a phenomenal experience. I've worked in pubs, contract catering, never in the operation because I'm served. I don't serve, but you know, carved out a career that I loved. You know, traveling to buy food and drink, drinking wine, champagne, like for amazing restaurant groups. However, there was always an ache and a yearn to do something that solely supports people. So throughout my journey, as you can imagine, in many boardrooms in the industry, they don't look like the back of house. So I was generally the only person of colour or black person in any decision-making room, most events, most awards, and felt quite lonely actually throughout my career, even though I really enjoyed my job. However, being the only, you know, black woman on a board especially the black and brown women in the organisations, always flocked towards me. And I loved either leading my own team or supporting them. Then in 2018, after 2.5 years at the Gordon Ramsay Group's procurement director there, I took some time out and I travelled and completed a life coaching diploma. And that was transformational for me. The irony is it's called Transformational Life Coaching Diploma. But in order to become an effective life coach, you've really got to understand yourself, understand your values, what motivates you. And having taken 5 months out of work, and that's the first time I've ever not worked since finishing uni, I was really clear that what I wanted my life to look like in the future was serving purpose, serving people that look like me, and within an industry that actually I like and love, which is hospitality. And at that moment in time, I wasn't sure what that would look like. I say that actually. I looked in the notes of my phone when I first launched Be Inclusive Hospitality, and about 7 or 8 years prior, I'd written out the core structure of Be Inclusive Hospitality. I just said, I want to do these things, and wrote it in my notes because I've got loads of notes. So it was in the back of my mind. Obviously, there's loads going on in here, so it kind of disappeared for a while. Anyway, fast forward to pandemic, a bit like Theo had described. I had a broad idea in my mind when we went into pandemic of what I wanted to launch and set up. But at the same time, I was conflicted because I was like, I forged a really successful career, good salary. I don't want to compromise my lifestyle. I like my life. How do I make a transition from something that I'm really established, experienced at, to something I love and is personal to me and will drive change beyond myself, right? So pandemic hit. In hindsight, I had this false sense of reality in terms of I wasn't really spending money during the pandemic. Yeah. So know a lot of suppliers, alcohol was arriving for free. I was buying food and that is it, right? So I wasn't spending any money. So I was like, I can take voluntary redundancy and start a business with no income. I'm not spending money. And so I did that.
Yeah.
And the real benefit of the pandemic, A, having the time, but B, having people at home. So I was able to really build community quite quickly. And it also coincided with the timing of George Floyd. So we launched on the 1st of June. And that meant that in hospitality, everyone was looking around for where's the diversity thing in hospitality, right? And they found us. So we grew quite quickly on socials and grew our community then to a couple of hundred people, but impactful because we have a lot of members with huge followings and huge influence in the industry. And so that helped to amplify our mission and vision and intentions. And I guess where we are from 3 years ago to here and now is we most definitely are leading the conversations around race equity in the hospitality industry.
Right.
And we're doing that through producing research projects every year. We work with a lot of businesses in the industry, and that's both global as well as regional. And we deliver initiatives to support people of colour to move forwards and upwards. So that's kind of the backstory and what led me to this point. And whilst we're on a journey, and I obviously have a vision on where I want to take the business, we are very much on the journey of me realising what I set out to do, in that we're creating impact for people. I can pay myself a salary and work in an industry I really love. And so... so that's kind of the backstory. Want me here today?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So many points to latch on to, whether it's your actual internal journeys in terms of the choices you made. I guess one of the things that stood out of many of the things was, something that's kind of universal, which is like community creation. It seemed, Theo, that the community creation was a byproduct of real necessity in that sense. So I guess having utilised the creation of community to start a business, how important is it now for you moving forward in terms of the way that you continue to create that community and serve that community? How do
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think community is becoming a bit of a buzzword, to be honest. Like,
Right.
because we use things so much, they lose what they actually mean. And why I mean that. But yes, it's the community that helped me get this started. And it's really interesting having professionals come and join the company now.
Right.
And, you know, them telling me you don't have a community,
Okay.
which is quite interesting. And the community is how engaged people are with you. So we've got 6,000 workers on our platform.
Right.
We've got 600 businesses. So there are people and interacting, but I guess they're all acting their way. Like, what we know from what we're learning about our workers is pay. And it's something we're really happy. We're one of the only platforms that pay a living wage
Right.
and above. So that was one of my first promises of starting, is that frontline workers, hospitality workers deserve living wage. And then we're incredibly diverse. So I'm really proud to say we look like London. We know the makeup of our community. But that stuff that's personal to me and things I care about. But as I've gone through the investment route, it doesn't stick.
Okay.
Like, that's nice. It's a nice to have to a lot of people. And I remember an old employer once said to me, "Why do you care about this so much? Diversity. Get to work and get the sales in, because there'll be no business. And without the business, there'll be no diversity in the business." That's a harsh reality. But it echoes, and it's kind of some reality, but it's true. So the community is still a very big part of it, and so I'm really like privileged to obviously have like Lorraine as a friend, as a guidance and advisor to have around, because you need multiple people and multiple like accountability in lots of different sides of the business for it to thrive. And like, we've kind of taken, like I said, a bit of a pivot where we're providing the shift work, but actually realizing people don't need CVs anymore to get these jobs. You need reasonably skilled people to get in there now. And that's become more my focus, personal focus, to kind of like make happen so the business can survive, so then I can build out the other parts and elements of community. But, you know, we've invested in the community manager. And yeah, it's really interesting in them taking it on and trying to get that engagement more. But yeah, community is like, without people, there's no business, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why maybe I say it's a buzzword, but people are paying more attention to the people who use their platforms. And yeah, we're trying to like learn more from our community, and not sit on our high horse and try and take it in a direction that's irrelevant to the people using the platform. So it's really important. Like, the best feedback I've ever got: sit with your customers, sit down with everybody who's using it. And like, one big lesson I've learned in business is that, you know, everyone wants to become their own boss. But you don't realize when you become a business owner, you have more bosses than ever. So I've got 6,000 bosses, workers, 600 businesses who are my bosses, my team. There's so much more expectation, right? But to me, like, the initial community is my initial team and the people using the platform, and really learning what they want it for and where they want to take it.
Fantastic. And your journey also in lockdown was interesting. I definitely came across a lot of your Instagram lives and group discussions. How important was that, and how important does it remain to do that sort of activation now that the world is open again?
It's a great question, because so at the beginning of our journey, obviously we're all at home, and it was an opportunity for us to really amplify the voices of people in the industry at all levels, with the, you know, business owners, employees, that the broader hospitality industry didn't know existed, right? So we really grew at pace as a result of those sorts of activations. And I remember it was Thursday night takeaway. It was Thursday live at 7 p.m. Then the world opened up. Lorraine had meetings. And obviously, bearing in mind, at the very beginning, it started off as just me, right? Yeah. So that 7 p.m. was no longer feasible. And so what I would say is that community still remains, you know, core. It's our oil, right? In order to grow, to be able to employ people, the community engagement has shifted So as opposed to simply telling stories, we've focused on initiatives that help them move forward. So like mentorships, scholarships, events that service them, because the spaces we create have never previously existed.
Right.
Where we're heading towards the end of this year, as I bring on a community manager, as we expand, is we can do both. You know, the storytelling and sharing our communities, you know, amplifying their voices and telling their stories is really a really important part of what we do. But equally, we are not just a platform for visibility. We want to support people to move forwards and upwards. So we need to do both really effectively. What I'd also add is that our starting point of community was people of colour at all career levels in the hospitality industry. Who our community now is all of the above, as well as national, regional, global businesses who advocate for the same things that we do, and that really put their money where their mouth is to drive change.
Right.
We have 90 ambassadors. So ambassadors can be from any background, any career level, and they commit to volunteer. So they'll fundraise, they'll volunteer their time, they'll, you know, blog for us, they'll coach, they'll mentor. And because I'm obsessed with data, any person that plays a part in our business, whether it's a mentor, of which we've got another 90, we've got ambassadors, which is 90, we've got about 60 partners, we can analyse who they are, what they are, and what they do. Right. So we know where we have resource. So I'm at a point with this business where we're just itching to get started. We've got loads of assets, we've got all the data, obsessed with feedback, and we chase our members for feedback on everything we do, like consistently. They hate us actually for that reason. but we need to be able to quantify what we're doing, the impact that we're having, right? We're social enterprise as well.
100%.
So I'd say that community is really important. I'm really excited for the future because with the resource that I'm going to bring on board, it's going to be game changing. Like just in terms of the content we're going to produce. It's as well as initiatives.
No,
obviously.
I mean you're already there. You're already there in terms of well, you may obviously there's a vision of where you want to go, but in terms of the straight up impact, the initial impact that is there and visible, it's already a door. It's already an open pathway to.
We're touching the surface of what's possible. Like really are. Like just very, very beginning.
I think there's a lot to be said about that because as much as I always say, the term giving people their flowers. You know what I mean? Want to do that all the time. Want to clap for you guys all the time. But I think also within that, it is important to understand how much more there is. Does that make sense? Otherwise, we just clap to each other and be like, hey. No disrespect. It's a bit like people clapping for carers in the lockdown. And then when it finished, everyone was like, anyway, so. It's the idea of actually not stopping the momentum, continuing to push on and actually going, okay, you know what? Yes, we're doing well here, but actually, here's what's really possible. And then we stop to think, actually, we're doing well, but we can do so much more. You know what I mean? So much more. And it comes from a place of me working in the industry for 20 years, right? I've seen it all. And there are many spaces within the industry that are slowly becoming more inclusive. But I still can't, actually I can name one. I was going to say I still can't name a black CEO in the sector. I can name one. That's not enough, and I think... for how broad the sector is.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a real gap and a space to learn more. So the reason why we produce this research is because people are like, hospitality is diverse. It really is. And it technically is. 17% of the industry is diverse, but actually... a lot of the black people are back of house. Exactly. Just kitchen porters. That's not the diversity that represents inclusion or equity. So huge amount of education still to do, and we're going to be producing more reports than one a year. We've got so much data.
Amazing.
So
no, I was going to ask both of you in regards to that data aspect, and I think touching upon something you said earlier with you in terms of who are your customers, who are people using the platforms, who are the people you're responding to, who are the people you're working with. I guess it was interesting in that aspect to figure out the diversification aspects within that. So, and then the habits, the consumer habits, the business habits, and what you guys have found in terms of, if you're working, if Slinger's working with, how many black businesses are involved in that? Do you know in terms of the worker habits, in terms of your actual people who are working for you, who applied to work for you and where they applied to work with and stuff, that kind of data.
That kind of granular.
And it just intersectional stuff as well. I wonder if you guys find, because I think you touched upon it, but I wouldn't touch, but you stated it clearly, the diversification doesn't necessarily represent itself properly throughout. Do you know what I mean? But is there something to be said about that in terms of the businesses that interact with yourselves and the consumers that interact with yourselves?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I think there's two answers for me. I think the first is from a community perspective, we understand who our community are. So we know that about 18% are business owners. We know that 25% are chefs. We know representation as far as job roles.
Yeah.
I also know that like 65-70% of our community are black. And I think it's largely due to seeing me as a black founder, even though we do have different ethnicities in there. But the level of detail that you're talking about, we're not there yet. Because the next evolution for us is moving to a digital platform so that we can really understand the needs of our community and it sit in a central place, but also they can connect with each other.
Yes.
If you're a chef in Scotland and you want to talk to a chef in Wales, which we have in a community, how can they connect?
Right.
And at the moment, the community is reliant on us to be that bridge of communication, which is not how we're going to grow beyond the UK, which is the intention. So
that makes sense.
So we're on a journey. We've got some data, but we're not
that
where
makes
we
sense.
need to be.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think similar where Lorraine is at. We know what roles we've got. We know where people want to go. Like something as a personal passion. Yeah, we are working with the I guess the lower level of workers and how can we pivot them to get to where they want them. Like hospitality is great, by the way. Like I think this is another thing I wanted to like get out is that I made a viable career out of hospitality.
Yeah.
People don't know that you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
People just see the frontline workers.
Yeah.
I think that's all there is.
Right.
But there's back support, there's marketing, there's HR, there's finance, there's logistics. There's all these different areas where you actually can really thrive in.
Yeah.
And actually, if you've worked in hospitality previously, you have more likely to succeed in those roles because money moves different in hospitality. Marketing's different, everything like that. So it's something I really want to bring a change to people because, for one, we've got such a massive talent shortage in the industry because of Brexit, because of COVID. And it's not like we've not short people in the country.
Right.
It's more about people aren't interested to get involved in it. And I think it's like people like us to like change that and make it like you can have a viable career inside of it. And it's fun. Like it's a great place to actually be. I'm glad I'm not in banking. Personally, my soul needs people and food in it. So yeah, I think it's and that's the next bit I'm working on the journey is how can I help people get to those, because a lot of our workers are side hustlers, using it to pick up shifts there and there. But how can we give them sustainable jobs where they're fulfilling progression?
Yeah, the narrative.
I think it's interesting as well because when we did some work with Bacardi, they were saying something similar and they were looking for people to work with in terms of they were trying to do the Bacardi Academy aspect, and we were talking with them and they were saying that they were trying to work out ways to get people to see hospitality in such a way, and obviously you've got people like Dino, who's amazing, Hatchabar, and his journey, how he viewed hospitality for himself wasn't just an obvious kind of. He went from I'm working in source a man making cocktails professionally. I thought, I really like that, and that led him to be like, I want to do that, which then led him to be like, I want my own bar, which then led to want my own product. Does that make sense? So I think what you're saying really resonates. It's just that the education isn't always there for everyone. I do think it's an industry-wide problem now. I think that there are loads of pathways into the sector. I've never worked in operation, but I've studied logistics, procurement, and there's that way in. There's multiple routes in. I think that as an industry broadly, even if you think about like TV and programming, it's usually about the superstar chefs.
Right.
Or the bad side of the industry.
Right.
It never talks about the wine buyer who travels to Champagne to buy champagne, which was me. You know, at one point in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't
absolutely.
you don't see these people that look like us.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think it's multi-pronged. I think the industry-wide has a PR piece to do, but actually within our own communities, and I think that will change with more career role models being visible and accessible, is that not only can you move up, but you can earn a really good salary, like a really good salary in hospitality.
Yeah.
And but just whilst Theo's talking, and I'm just thinking like, obviously an offline conversation, because, you know, your slingers are who we don't talk to. So when I think about the demographic of our community, it is chefs, it's GMs, it's area managers. We've got some MDs in there, business owners, bar managers, some front of house. But there's something in that, because we do now have a lot of career role models. Say, I know a CEO who's a black guy in the industry that most people don't know. I just know him personally, and I've known him through this business, and how we utilize the communities that are already built.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the visibility is such a huge part,
It really is.
and I tried to mimic my community of some other communities that existed. Like I think Count Talk, to be quite frank, she's awesome about what she's done.
Yeah, she has.
But they're not the same group of people we're
They're
working
not.
with
Yeah,
at
they're
all.
very different.
Like very different. Just because
Yeah.
we're in hospitality doesn't mean it can be like that.
Yeah.
People, my community haven't got time to come for meetups at 6 p.m. and to 8 p.m. and discuss the industry-wide issues. They're
It's a
grinding,
different
they're
approach.
working.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And that's what I've worked out, and I'm like trying to work out how I can serve them better about what we're doing. And we already know pay is the most important thing.
Right.
How can we line their pockets with more money ultimately? But provide educational pieces, shed light on more, and obviously we're going to have this conversation further. And we're in a final space where we can actually do some work together. We've been talking about it for ages.
Glad to be the bridge, guys. Glad to be the bridge.
Try and
No, but that's normal. You guys are busy since.
but I had to get
It's on the
investment.
table.
That's
It's
why
on the table,
I was chasing investment, so that took literally like the narrative's 9 months. In reality, it was 2 years.
I was gonna say
Right.
So yeah, we're finally there now, and I can, we can do some changes now.
Incredible. No, there is a bridge, isn't it, in terms of the narrative. I think that not only in the hospitality industry or across the board, we have journeys within the community about perceptions of careers, the viable careers in itself.
Yeah.
And I think these conversations, or what we're looking to do with these conversations, is also open the perspectives of what's possible.
Yeah.
Make it visible, make it real, bridge it, which I think is that thing, isn't it? It's understanding. Theo, you make a fantastic point. It's something that's actually different touch points, something not relevant to this particular, but we had an episode where and I guess talking about postcode wars and just the acknowledgement of things. You have to acknowledge what are these things that potentially stop people from doing something where in perception, like overviewing,
Hidden
like,
London.
oh, it's really easy.
I meet people. I'm like obviously a Londoner, and people are like, "You actually from London?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Wow, I've been here for 10 years and never met a Londoner." And I'm like, what kind of world do you operate in? And like, and people don't see the other bit of London that exists. And like, obviously I hang around a lot of foodies, and they'd be like, didn't you go to Peckham and eat when you were younger? And I was like, Peckham? As an East London boy.
It's a great place, by the way.
Nothing to them. It's not my postcode.
Right.
Like,
I know
you would never get caught slipping
100%.
outside of your
100%.
postcode. And I stayed
You from
within my
Peckham?
area.
I'm north.
Yeah, I'll never
it's
get
Peckham,
caught there
so-
without my parents.
Yeah.
You went even Hackney, which is a mile and a half down the road from me.
Wow.
I wouldn't go to Hackney.
Yeah.
because
That-
you
that's-
can't
that's
be seen
Yeah.
outside of your postcode.
It's very different.
Like,
100%. I wouldn't, as a Londoner, I never went. People were like coming south. I was like, south in general. I was like, why? Why would I cross the river? They're like, why not? I'm like, what? I'm like, man, I don't know anyone there. That's not safe for me. And it's not that I'm thinking I'm gonna get. But it's just the idea of being in your community was very
course.
powerful.
Yeah,
and there were certain areas which were, a little rougher than others. Do you know what I mean? Hackney being one of them, Peckham being another one of them, and obviously the gentrification that's happened over the years. People now are like, oh yeah,
it happened in my own area.
I'm like, do you know what used to happen there? Like,
Yeah.
like, do you know? And sometimes we like Peckham, like, and there's telling some people then had to explain to, because I worked in Peckham for like a long time ago. I worked it's past Frank's bar. I don't know if you guys know. It's on the, Frank's, right? So I remember this security guy was telling this other guy who just moved in the area, and he was like, Peckham's great, and he's like, I'll explain to you my first experience of Peckham, and it was horrific. It was like he said that basically he was crossing the road and he witnessed a shooting happen like live in front of his face, and he was at the zebra crossing, and the guy was like, oh, I don't think it's like that now. Anyway, cut long story short, 2 weeks later he got robbed. But I'm not laughing at him. Obviously, I'm not happy that someone got robbed. But it was like this stuff still exists. Yeah, just because you don't count every day. This stuff.
But you outgrow it. You outgrow.
What this is
like when you become like 21 plus.
That's not your life.
You're not in it.
Yeah.
Like people don't see you anymore. So like I said, it was a task just to get out of the train station and get home. Like I'm not. Any area was the same in London. And like Stratford, I'm from like people would come up to me and try and make a move, and you look at them and I'm like, yo, it's Theo, and they'd be like, oh, hey bro, how are you? I didn't know it was you. Like that's why you're protected within your own community.
Exactly.
And that world still exists in many ways. You've just outgrown it. And it's still there. And I was watching a program on, I can't remember the name, but it's on a certain TV channel, and it was talking about kids going to prison. Over like something 24 hours in prison or something like that, and these kids were messing around, like seeing someone wearing a Rolex, and going to rob him. Someone absolutely stabbed him. He dies. Turned out the Rolexes were bloody fake. These kids are like, oh, but I've got I'm at uni studying law, and like I just want to I really want to tap into that younger generation and just be like, this, it's idealistic again, but there's fun things to be doing. And this London is for you, because that's what you get growing up with as a city kid. It's not just London, there's other areas in the UK, right? And you grow up and go, so like in East London, we've got Canary Wharf in the distance. We can all see it, but we're like, it's not for us. That's not, we can't do that. And it's such a huge disconnect in London, with Londoners and how London operates.
I think culturally though, I think that's part of the educative aspect to everything that we've talked about. I think it's I love the talk about being a wine buyer, for instance. I love the idea that, because that's something that I'm sure if I talk to a lot of young people, they'd be like, what do you mean? Isn't that just someone just buy that and that's that? And you're like, no, this stuff, there's all these things that exist that you may or may not be into, but you wouldn't know that there's such a plethora of things to be involved in. Really is. And it's not about and like you said there in terms of this isn't for me. Do you know what I mean? It's like you don't even know what's on offer. Do you know what I mean? You're saying the thing you're saying is not for me is the one thing you've seen in front of your face. Do you know what I mean? Which you don't understand. And I think we touched upon it with one of the episodes. We had a senior prosecutor here, and she was saying that it's a situation where there's that attitude of like, oh, nah, these people aren't for me. This is if I do this, I'm going against my situation and she's like, this is the problem. There's a cultural misunderstanding, a cultural ignorance. Do you know what I mean? If you like, and which is understandable. Do you know what I mean? To understand that all these things are for you in any way you want them. Do you know what I mean? But just find out they exist. Even find on that literal bottom level. If I don't know something exists, I can't dream it.
Seeing is believing.
Well,
100%.
For sure.
And representation is huge, because
it is.
All of other guests, and including you guys, which we should talk about, but every guest has said the same thing: representation. And I've talked about trailblazers, and I said that it's amazing to have trailblazers, but I want the situation where we don't keep needing trailblazers. I want it to become the norm, if that makes sense. I don't want. I get one Lorraine and I have to wait 10 years for another Lorraine. Do you know what I mean? I get one, I have to wait. It should be, all right, so Lorraine did this, and then behind you guys should be a pathway that's now created.
What we both believe in is mentorship. We're both big on it, and obviously Lorraine's got a program which I try and support. And in myself, I have Friday afternoons, I have an open door policy. Anyone can book me in my calendar.
Oh, wow.
And particularly anyone from a global majority background, they can just book me in and ask me some advice or support. It could be as little or as big or anything as they wish. And I think that's really important, keeping the doors open.
It really is. Yeah, because I think when I look to sort of some of the generations ahead of us, that hasn't been the approach. It's been very much okay, and you know, I kind of lead with empathy and understanding as to why that is, but that kind of scarcity mindset of I'm the black person in the room, and let's not allow anyone else to gain access. And I'm just really keen to quash that altogether because it's problematic in so many ways, and I think you know, even just talking about young people as you were, and I just think that as a black person living in the West, you start to believe what you hear and read about who and what we are, and we are not in boxes. There's no limits to anything that we can do ever anywhere, and that's why having access to career role models is super important, or just the diversity of different types of people that look like you, right? I always think how my life would have been different if I had, you know, like obviously growing up in the 80s, like in terms of insights into what Africa was, there were children starving and walking barefoot. That was all that was ever on TV, right?
Yep.
Obviously I had, you know, insights into the Caribbean, my parents being Jamaican, but just in terms of globally what black people are and what we are doing, if I had access or was able to tap into that at a young age, I think I'd probably be the Prime Minister now. No, I'm joking. No, but I think it would have changed my...
to add to that, just Sadiq Khan becoming the Mayor of London unlocked something mentally in my head and went, oh, we can do that. You're like, he's a black, but he's different from whiteness. And you're like, oh, we can do that. Like, just, it literally, like, it wasn't until 2 years ago I broke my elbow and I had to go and get surgery. And the surgeon was mixed race. And I was like, we can do that. It's so important to be able to see these things just because it mentally
really
unlocks.
is. I mean, for years, right? So I love music. And I've always looked to America for that. So like from really young, watching Oprah, really into music and watching like the entrepreneurship journeys of like people like Diddy and Jay-Z. And I've always looked to them like just kind of a reminder of who we are, because there were periods in my life where the internet wasn't really interneting, they didn't really exist. And so like the access, unless you travelled, just was not there.
That's exactly
you know?
But that's even...
So I love London actually.
But that's even hugely important when you talk about these things. And like looking to America, for instance, is one of the things is that because that was the only access given as well. Do you know what I mean? You said, it wasn't even that these things don't exist across the world. You know what I mean? The whole of Africa, the whole of the Caribbean, whole of the world. It was like the visibility wasn't there. And that's one of the things that's amazing when you talk about America, that they were having the visibility despite their issues, and then it make you feel like, okay, cool.
They look like us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not really a problem. But I think that's the intriguing thing that everyone keeps saying. It's the idea of just making someone go, yeah, this is fine because this person's doing it, this person's doing it. So there's no ceiling. Do you know what I mean? There is absolutely no ceiling. It's just whatever I feel like doing. Tomorrow if I wake up and I want to be, literally could be anything. I want to sculpt for a living. It's not the idea that that's not really, it's like, well, if someone's doing it, and there will be someone doing it 9 times out of 10. That's the thing. So it's just about the visibility and the what's the word? And the representation of it that makes the difference. You know what I mean? Should we move on to the next?
We'll go into your section.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't even thought about it too, as I have been, but so we've got a section here called section of the show called Prove Me Wrong. This section's called Prove Me Wrong, where myself and Alex will be playing devil's advocate, asking our hosts questions close to their heart, giving them the opportunity to navigate the tricky waters of today's whataboutism and the ignorance posted in most comment sections. First thing I'm going to say to you guys is that these are not my views, okay? So don't attack me, don't look at me any different, don't hate me after this, you know what I mean? I'm playing devil's advocate, because both of you guys have, fantastic careers, fantastic stories, fantastic journeys, and you know how the internet is. So everyone has their opinion, and unfortunately, you can't control how many people look at that and think the same. So this section is just me just having a dig at some things which I can imagine other people might do, mostly out of ignorance, but here we are. So I think I'll start with Theo. You said that you think CVs are inefficient and they're not necessary. Do you know what I mean? and you know also sort of described yourselves as the Uber of hospitality in that sense. Just with the idea of CVs being inefficient and not necessarily, what about those of us and those people who've been using CVs for so many years and have attained so many jobs, and yourself, you used one. So what changes that, and then is that situation where you are possibly doing that for people who are unlikely to make the CVs themselves, and is that an unfair advantage? Is that kind of positive discrimination, should we call it?
Yeah, I think like very split, by the way. Like I operate in like kind of the more blue collar market side of it, right? And where I've got business owners who want reasonably skilled people to do the job right now, and I've got workers who want to do the job right now. And the idea of how our parents used to operate us, and people still walking around with paper CVs, makes the process so inefficient. And so therefore Slinger builds data on workers and can provide verified workers to businesses to get them in straight into a trial shift, reducing all the key inefficiencies. Now, just because you can write a good CV and a good cover letter doesn't necessarily mean you're good at working. And again, for our community, we provide the ratings and we can use the data to provide who are the best workers. So I've just been clear that it's for more the blue collar side of work, and people wanting to connect quicker and more efficient. For the white collar market, I think they're still needed. They're higher risk pay, and they take longer. You need that long-term recruitment process, which we're both learning. And whereas, someone who can bartend may not be able to write the best CVs. I think we're trying to make it more inclusive, that both sides can connect and level the playing field, who connects with what. And data's the truth, ultimately.
Okay, perfect. And Lorraine, can I ask you, just so we talk about you talk about race equity in hospitality. Sure, you should just have the best person for the job.
I think that all of us around the table have all been in the situation where you're sitting in a team and you're completely confused as to why some of the people in your team are at the table, right? And I think that kind of leads to the idea that meritocracy is why the sole reason why people get jobs, and we know that's not the case, right? And it also leans into, we conduct a lot of research and we explore who is accessing what. So some of the key stats from our findings, for instance, at the moment, is that if you are white, you're more likely to be in a high-paid job. If you're black, you're more likely to be in a 0-hour contract. If you are black, you are more likely to want kind of scholarships, qualifications, but least likely to access it. The list goes on and on. So I guess all of our data points to the idea that black people within the industry in particular want to move forward, want to progress. They're experiencing racism at work, discrimination. When they do experience discrimination, there's no outlet to report it. Like, the list goes on and on. So there is just a huge amount of amazing talent in the industry that want to progress, and they're being met by barriers to move forward. So this isn't about the need for equity. It's just about, actually, if we're talking about talents, if we're talking about good people, why would you look at it through like a narrow tunnel when you can broaden your lens and have like a range of different types of people who are not generally getting access to those opportunities moving forward?
Amazing.
Fantastic.
That was a perfect answer. I mean, for me, it's a perfect answer. I'm happy with it. Thank you. That was amazing, guys. So we're just going to move on to the last bit, which is the quick fire round.
Yay!
All right? This is the quick fire round. No ifs, buts, or maybes. No long explanations. Just one answer.
It's about food?
Don't ask me what I'm asking. You just have to answer, okay? Because that's what I know. All of you guys, especially because most of you guys are thinkers, so you guys are like, what? I'm like, no, it's done on purpose, so you don't get to think. Okay? So start with something really simple. Beach or city?
Beach.
Why are you like, why would anyone want to stay in the city? Now watch me say city.
That's a Londoner accent. Answer, sorry.
That's what I loved about it. I was like, what's this? It's like, wow. 9 to 5 or 10 to 6?
10 to 6.
10 to 6.
Interesting. Bank or alternative finance?
Pardon?
Bank or alternative finance?
Alternative finance.
Alternative finance.
Interesting.
Okay.
Jollof rice or rice and peas?
Rice and peas.
I knew she's going to do it.
Rice and peas.
Yeah, we
She's
know
gonna
we
do it.
know
I
the
just
crowd.
said
We know the
she
crowd.
gonna do it. No traitors here. I'm done. Nuclear power or fossil fuels?
So, pass.
No. It's easy. You can't answer it. It doesn't matter. It's how you feel.
Nuclear power can be good.
It's up to you guys how you answer this.
Whatever he says.
Yeah, fossil fuels. Nah.
Quality or quantity?
Quality.
Quality.
Youth or experience? I love these ones.
Youth.
You are sweating.
I know, it's hilarious.
Sweating.
For me, it's youth.
This one gets a lot of people in terms of everyone feels like... But it's
Experience.
academia or apprenticeship?
Apprenticeship.
Academia.
Interesting. Private or public?
What are we talking about?
No. I told you could ask me. You could ask me.
I'll go public.
Okay.
I don't understand the context.
There is no context. It's quick fire. You just got to give me the answer.
Private.
That's fine. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong. It's just how you feel. Sustainability or low cost?
Sustainability.
Sustainability.
YouTube or Netflix?
YouTube.
YouTube.
Interesting. Brick and mortar or online?
Brick and mortar.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And the last one is city or countryside?
Depends on the mood.
Got options. Yeah. I like that.
I'll stick to the city again.
So weekends in the countryside.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to be in the countryside.
100%.
Clean air.
If you had to leave one behind, which one do you leave behind?
Countryside, then I'd leave that behind.
You know,
I'll
it's
go
a
with city. Yeah.
Okay, then fair enough.
Leave my
Perfect.
passport in the countryside.
I'm done. Perfect. That's it. That's all the answers. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Cool.
So, guys, we've come to the end of this episode of the BOLO Business Podcast. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you so much, Theo, for your time. This is just like touch the cusp. I know there's another
We need
episode,
about 6 hours for you guys.
literally, to really deep dive into all the great work that you guys are doing, all your vision and thoughts about how, communities can be more inclusive, pathways can be open. But from what you shared, I know it will touch people, it will give people insights into different avenues are available, and also hopefully inspire them to understand that there is more out there for them, and this is their London Theo. So, thank you so much for your time again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
No problem.
Honestly.
Thank you.
And as you guys have both mentioned, both of you have mentoring sort of programs and the rest of it. So if people looking to get in touch, they can find a way through that. Because honestly, like I said, we need about 6 hours for you guys. You guys haven't talked about, for instance, raising funds, how literally raising funds and apps, literally dealing with partnerships on top. You guys, someone's just casually gone, we've got 60 partnerships and not talked about one of them.
Awards
We have so
ceremonies.
many. We have so many things I'd love to talk to you, literally, because you guys are heavyweights in this game. But we haven't got enough time to do all that. But it's honestly been an honour and a pleasure to have you both in today. Thank you.
so
Thanks
much.
for
Really
having us.
appreciate it. Thank you for creating the space.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the BOLO Business Podcast. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. We encourage you to carry these conversations forward, share your thoughts with us on social media, and most importantly, apply the insights gained today in your own spheres of influence. Stay tuned for more compelling discussions that transcend boundaries, bridge cultures, and celebrate the richness of diversity. Please subscribe, share, and until next time, this is the BOLO Business Podcast.